Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Dixon here with Amy Blackford and Louis D'Souza, and this is your Daily Dose of Happy. We're so happy you decided to join us today, and we're especially happy because we have a special guest joining us. His name is Kenn Dixon, and this guy does it all. He does everything. Literally, he owns the entire Earth. There's nobody else on Earth who owns anything at all. Oh, this guy's a life coach.
Introduction, Ken.
I mean, he's a life coach. He's a seminar leader. He has courses. I mean, when you read his website is all about basically teaching the entire world how to be successful. I mean, what more could you ask for? I mean, so Kenn, we're excited. Here's the other thing. He has a course called LOA in a Day. It's an 8-hour course. Now, we don't have 8 hours. We only have an hour here. But we're going to see what we can compress into an hour. But I thought that was...
We're going to get the short synopsis version.
So, as you can tell, Kenn, we're a little crazy here, but welcome to the program. We're glad to have you.
So good. Thank you so much. You forgot to mention my retreat in Mexico.
Well, it's because we only have an hour.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. All right.
There's only so much you can do, right?
It's very true. Check. Okay, you got it all now. We got it all now.
So,
all right.
So you have to forgive me. I'm still learning how this particular screen works here. I think I've got it. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can bring you on screen. There you are. There's Mr. Dixon. How are you doing today? You're looking good. You're looking very relaxed.
So good. Yeah, everything's good. The world is working the way it's supposed to work, so what can you complain about, right?
Well, you can complain. It just doesn't do any good.
Yeah. I suppose that's true. Yeah.
There's no limit to the amount of complaining we can do in life.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So, guys, I'm going to ask a couple questions, then you guys jump in with questions as you're interested in raising them out. But I'm just going to start from the beginning. I mean, you've got quite a career going here, Kenn. You're obviously quite successful at it. But what started it? How did you get going in all of this?
I thought you said we only had an hour.
Well, we do. This is the condensed version.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna tell you
short sentences.
So years ago, I was a personal trainer in Vancouver, BC, and I did that for several years, throughout BC, British Columbia, I was a personal trainer. But the one thing that always seemed to bother me a little bit was, I was training all these people. They were getting fit. They were getting healthy. Their hearts were getting strong, all of this stuff. But there was always something nagging at me that there was something missing from it. And I could never figure out what it was. And I was doing some great stuff. I was, lots of people and doing group fitness and that sort of thing. And then my wife and I were on a trip to Mexico. And I'll keep this the Reader's Digest version. But my wife and I were on a trip to Mexico. And we were traveling around, and we were in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And we stopped into this little store. We were trying to find souvenirs for some of our loved ones back home, some of the kids and stuff. And we stopped into this one little store. This is just a crazy story. This is an LOA story. Like, this is how stuff happens, right? So
cool.
So I've been searching for this sort of answer for a number of years as to what am I missing from the whole training thing. And we walked into this store, and it was a store with the marionettes, the dancing puppets on a string thing.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
and there was like hundreds of them. It was a beautiful store. There was like every costume, some with tambourines, some with guns, some with, it was an amazing store. And there was about an 80-year-old man sitting in the very back of the store, and he was talking to us and telling us that, it was his family that made all these, and this is what they do. And my wife said, well, I don't really want to get them, because what's going to happen is they're going to get all tangled up in like a week, as marionettes do.
Right.
And they're going to wind up in the corner. The kids are never going to play with them. And this 90-year-old guy, I'm sure he's no longer around, but this 90-year-old guy, I don't know if he knew what he said to me at the time or whether I was just ready to hear it. But he said to me, I'm going to give you the secret to make sure that never happens. He said, what you do is you find the string, you got the sort of the cross on the top, and then the string's coming down to the hands, the feet, and the head. He goes, you find the string that goes to the head. If it's all tangled up, you find the one string that goes from the wood to the head. He said, you untangle the head, and the rest will follow. And it was like, okay, there's the answer, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm training all these people from the neck down, and I've been doing it for years, but from the neck up is what really matters. Like, untangle the head, and the rest will follow. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there's the answer.
Isn't it annoying when we learn this stuff? We say, why didn't I know this before?
Right. I mean, I'm going back 20 some odd years, right? And it was just this moment for me that just kind of like the light goes off, and it was like, so then I did all the studying, I did all the research, I did the courses, and I did all that, and then I just kind of launched, man. It was just kind of, there's a need for it out there. People are looking for some answers, and, I put together several programs. I've taught at the college here, several programs as far as the seminars and the workshops and the one-on-one coaching. And so it's just been totally awesome.
Well, what's been the best part? Like, if you had to pick one event or one threshold that got met or something, what's been the best part so far of the journey?
I'm going to share this. I don't even know if it's a threshold, but it's like when I'm doing a presentation, whether it's a workshop or a seminar or a corporate event, and you're in front of all these people, and one person lights up. Like, it could be in the very back of the room. The rest of the room might be, into it, but, kind of going, okay, I've heard some of this stuff before, and some of it seems like, I should know this, and some of it's like different, but there's that one person in the class. Sometimes it's more, but it's that one person that you notice. And it's like, you at that moment you've changed a light. Like
the light bulb went on.
It, right? And then they come up and talk to you later, and they're like all emotional and stuff because they really get it. And it's like that's the thing, right? And that happens over and over and over again, right? But it's just the individual. That's the cool one. Right.
And it's going to be a different person each time. I say that I'm reminded of Sean Aker, the positive psychologist. And I think he actually mentions this in his TED Talk. I can't remember where he mentioned this, but he went into a corporate setting, gave a presentation, and there was this one guy in the back who got up at one point and said, haven't we heard all this stuff before? Isn't this just a great big waste of time? And he's like, oh, well, so he went through his usual thing and so forth. Afterward, the guy who hired him came up to him and said, that was amazing. Do you realize that you know who that guy was who stood up in the back? Oh, yeah, I know who that was. Well, that guy is like the most antisocial guy in the place. We can't get him involved in anything. How did you do it? So
right, yeah.
You never know how you're going to connect with somebody, right?
It's so true. It's so awesome when it happens, though. It's just and there's just so many ways to do it, right? So like with this LOA, there's just so many ways to, whether you're going to go in both feet and just kind of sink or swim, or whether you just want to test the waters a little bit, it all works. In the end, you're always going to find the how, and that's the cool part. So
I think whenever you stay in alignment, you're going to attract to you people that are wanting that spark, like what you're talking about, and it only takes that one person to make your day, because now you're sharing something that you're passionate about, that you understand, and just to see that look of recognition in somebody's face. Like when I first heard about this material, I just knew this is how it worked. And I remember the relief and the excitement that I felt that life didn't have to be so hard, that it was so much more within my own control as to the results that I was going to get. And when you see that spark of recognition and that resonance within another person, it's going to just completely, the momentum from there, if they really apply it. And if they have that spark, that means they're going to. And then they have an effect. Like there's this ripple effect that you have. So say somebody like me took this on, I started talking to my family members, my friends, and now those friends that have they got that spark and that recognition are now talking to their family and friends, and it has this kind of, just this ripple effect that goes outward, and really does have a huge impact.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
So any questions? Louis, you want to jump in with something? Or actually, when Louis is this quiet, I always get a little concerned, to be honest.
Well, Kenn has gone down a route that is fairly similar to mine. So I used to do a lot of exercise classes and health and nutrition and all the rest of it. And I also felt like something's missing, not hitting the core of what I really want to do here. And I so related to that. It's like, spot on for me. And, once I started teaching the LOA and, the stuff that I teach, you do get, and this is again another area where I completely connected with Kenn there, is the satisfaction of watching the light bulbs go on. There's nothing like it in the world. There's nothing like it. I've done lots of things, but when you see somebody shift their thinking, and consequently, if you're fortunate enough to see their whole life change around it, it's just great. It's just, and the fact that you've been instrumental in that, obviously they've been ready for it and they've allowed it. You actually didn't do much. You're just singing the song of something that you just love. And,
right.
And off they go, and they grab that spark like you did with that guy in that shop, that 80-year-old guy,
Yeah.
He probably wasn't aware of the ripple effect at all, but, it changed your life drastically, and yours has affected so many others. And it was one guy in a shop talking about puppets,
Yeah. It's and those little things, and I wrote a book, and it's only on Amazon, but it's called Hyper Awareness, right? And it's basically 100 different stories of different things that have happened to me that, because I've been aware of my surroundings, they've taught me something. They're things that obviously I was supposed to be a part of it, but if you're not aware of the things that are going on around you, you wouldn't be a part of it. And it's just simple little life lessons that happen, on every day they happen to us, but more often than not necessarily for us, but for others, if you're not kind of aware that, there's signs coming to you about, lessons to learn or paths to follow or any of that, if you're not aware that those things are happening every day, then you'll miss out on them.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's so important to have that awareness and just understand that every conversation that you overhear, you're supposed to. That could be really? I was supposed to overhear that conversation. There's something in that conversation for me, right? And it could be, just for that day, but it's something.
Or even a clip of a song, or I'll see a billboard, and in that moment I'll be having a thought, and the billboard will have a message on it that I've driven by it a million times, but there's a message in it. So everywhere you look, actually, these things are happening. There's a communication in this field of energy around us that is 100% responding to what we're thinking and feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so cool. And I had one, I was heading to the gym, and there was a mother and a daughter. This one always kind of it stuck with me on sort of a higher level. They were walking out, and this is like maybe a 7-second exchange as we're walking by each other. We're not even talking to each other, but the little girl was in the daycare at the gym, and the mother was finally finished her workout, and they were walking out. And all I heard of this conversation was, the little girl asking her mother, "Mommy, did you make a friend today?" And the mommy said, "No, I didn't." And the little girl said, "I did. You should try that." And it was like,
I love it.
Innocence.
It was like, yeah, you should, right? Like,
no kidding.
Yeah. Like, why was I part of that? Like, I mean, we didn't even, I don't even know if we looked at each other, but it was just this passing that happened that was like, yeah, okay, that resonates with me. Yeah, I should probably try to make a friend today. Like, I mean, how simple is that, right?
And it's so
Kids made 3 new friends today.
Right.
Yeah.
Children are so open to that new energy, whereas adults, not all adults, but becoming more jaded and having these kind of projections or preconceived notions, and you don't even realize that you're doing it. But if you're walking around this way, it's almost like you're sleepwalking. And whereas children are so alert and in the present moment, and they don't have these built-in projections or prejudices or whatever you want to call them. And so they're walking around connecting in the present moment to the energy that they're most attracted to. Whereas adults, that's why they say it is better to be more childlike,
Yeah.
Whenever I go out, I make conversation with the lady that's at the cash register, at the grocery store, the server, when I go out to eat. I meet some of the most amazing people that way. And just kind of keeping that childlike wonder. And I'm always amazed at how similar the stories can end up being, or that you're even talking to somebody and there's something there to learn. So you are resonating with the person without even at first a communication verbally happening.
Yeah, it's so awesome. But then there's a fine line there for me, right? Because I don't want to be in maybe this isn't the politically correct way to say it, but I don't want to be the crazy person on the back of the bus that's just kind of like spewing out, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't be having this problem. And it's like, I don't want to be that person, right? So you gotta reel it in a little bit, because you'd love to, right? You know, you're in a bank lineup and you hear these two people talking and it's like, oh, I had this worst day and this happened and this happened. And you want to turn around and go, if you knew what I knew, oh my God. But it's like, okay, crazy person.
Right, tone it down. Yeah, there's a time and a place for everything, for sure.
Right? Yeah.
I don't think I've learnt that reservation.
We'll be in a steam room.
Come live in my world for a while.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I find a way of chatting to them.
Yeah. I'm not getting on a bus with you.
What you're talking about, though, is really, really, poignant to all this, and it's a reminder. People talk about signs a lot, right? Especially in LOA communities, like, how do I read my signs, or what does this sign mean, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like they're looking for one particular thing that comes through that's really, really special. That's their sign. That's, their guardian angel talking to them. What you're pointing out is the signs are all over the place. The signs are in every single aspect of our existence.
Yeah, they don't stop. They're like everywhere you go.
Yes.
And I say this in my seminar. People and the LOA has actually affected like my entire life. In that, if I'm following somebody and they're going, and we've all been there, and they're going like super slow, like they're going 30 and a 50, right? And I'm like, under normal circumstances, before all of this came to me, it was like you'd get frustrated, you'd get angry, you'd be going, oh, why is this person, right? Mm-hmm. And then you realize that person's going that slow because there's, and you'll never know. That's the thing. You'll never know, because there may be something up ahead that if I was going 50 would not be good for me.
Right, exactly.
Right? But
yes.
I'm being held back by this person going 30, and maybe somebody's going to run a red light up ahead. Like, I don't know, and I will never know. But
right.
The fact that this person is going 30 in front of me, there's a reason for that, right? And so it can bring you with, if you have faith in this, right? Not religious faith, just faith in yourself and the process, right?
Well, for some of us, it's any faith. I mean, faith is not necessarily easy to learn.
Yeah, but if you believe and you have the faith in this, then you understand that person going 30 that's kind of, slowing your day down,
right,
is there for a reason, man.
Right.
And it's like, they may have just saved you from a horrible situation. They may not have, but it doesn't matter. That's the possibilities, and that's how it works. So it's like, accept that.
Yeah, it works like that with everything. It isn't just with some things. Everything's being orchestrated to work out in the way that you want it to, even if it doesn't look like on the surface that it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's really true.
It's so cool. I was coming out of a restaurant and it was winter and it was icy, and there was a cab behind me, and I was waiting to turn right onto the road out of the restaurant, and I could see that the cab wasn't going to stop before me.
Oh wow!
Right? Yeah, because he was just sliding. He was uncontrolled and he was sliding. So he hit my vehicle, and there was no damage to his vehicle. There was no damage to my vehicle. It was more of just a bump, right? But we both got out of our cars, and I said, "Hi, I'm Ken, and we're supposed to meet." And he looked at me, and he's like, "What?"
Not the reaction he was expecting.
No, but there's a reason, right? Like, right. There's a reason. So you may not ever figure out what the reason is, but there is one, and so just embrace that. Embrace all of that, right? Like, it's going to be good.
I mean, you probably exchanged information, so he got your business card. Who knows what'll come out of that?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you never know, right? It could be 5 years from now that I see him again. I don't know, but you know what?
Yep.
It's to get out of the car, as a lot of people will, right? And, you know, cause life is life, and they'll get out and they'll be frustrated and they'll be this and they'll be that and they'll be, oh my God, why did you stop and sue? And it's like, no, dude, hey, I was supposed to meet you. What?
Well, it's not necessarily the way we're usually taught by our own society. Let's put it that way. It's not the way we usually think about how to handle this kind of situation. But what you're really talking about is changing perspective.
Yes.
I'd like you to talk about that for a little bit more in that particular light, because we have the choice at all times in our lives to decide what our perspective is going to be about anything, whether it be, you know, getting a raise or getting hit by a cab, sliding on the ice.
Yeah.
Either way, it doesn't make any difference. We have the choice. And we forget about that. I mean, for years, I'll tell you honestly, Ken, for years, I didn't think I had a choice. Honestly, I really did not believe, I thought I was like subject to the whims of fate. Whatever came my way, if it was something good, then I could react well. If it was something that was not so good, then I had this moral obligation to react badly to it. It never occurred to me I actually could change my reaction. When I learned that, it was a bit of a shock, to be perfectly honest.
And probably freeing for you, right? Like,
well, yeah, sure.
That's like this whole load comes off of you when you make that realization. You know, every red light you hit, yeah, it can be frustrating because, you know, especially if you left the house late and you have an appointment. But it's like you hit that red light for a reason. So just kind of look at it and go, okay, you know what's the worst? You don't even need to go there, but like really, what's the worst thing that can happen if I'm 5 minutes late? Like it's really, you know.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, right. And all of those things that. And this is sort of one of those moments, right? It's like all the stuff is there for a reason. Even the bad stuff,
right,
turns out good.
Right.
Yes.
So, cause like I've been fired from jobs, right? Like in my history, I've been, you know, let go of a job, and it's like I've never been let go of a job where a better one didn't come along. And right? I've never lost a relationship where a better relationship didn't come along. Like, really? Like, yeah, it might seem hard at the moment, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart. But if the more faith you have in the fact that was supposed to happen and that better things are happening to you, and I like to call myself an inverse paranoid, right? And what that is, right? Yeah, an inverse paranoid. I believe the universe is conspiring to do me good. Right?
Yeah,
so, right. So all of that stuff that seems negative at the moment is only going to get you to where you really want to be. It's probably if things are leaving your life, they're probably leaving your life because they're blocking your true life and your true goals. So again, embrace that stuff and just go, yeah, man, there's a reason for that. I'm not going to stress out over it because something bigger, better, more suited to me is coming along. And as
opposed to holding on and resenting it, and then you're not allowing whatever is trying to flow into your life, you're resisting it. Abraham calls it, you know, you're swimming upstream. Quit doing that.
Yeah. You know, and that's one of the things, you know, I watch a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of motivational speakers and inspirational folks. And one of the things that's always frustrated me with them, and I know they're well-meaning, and I know there's some great ones out there, and I know they're all well-meaning. But when I hear an inspirational or motivational speaker get up there and tell me how hard life is supposed to be or is going to be, I'm like, dude, you are on the wrong path.
Yeah,
like, seriously, man. It's like, life is not supposed to be hard. No. If it is, you're going the wrong direction. You're swimming upstream, right? Like, I mean, that's, like, don't buy into that stuff, man. It's like, try, you know, it's like one of those things for me. It's like, you know, and I've called a few of them out and I say, well, why are you telling me it's going to be hard? It's never been hard, right? It's at the end of the day.
I mean, if you believe it's hard, it's going to be hard. It just validates the belief if that's how you want to go about it.
And when you reflect back on everything that's happened in your life, all you've really had is successes, right? I mean, really. You know, people say the negative is stronger than the positive, but that's not the truth, man. When you look back, it's like, yeah, well, this happened, but then this happened. Oh, yeah, but then that happened. Oh, yeah, but then that happened. Right? It's like, yeah, it's all good. Like, it's not supposed to be hard. It's not.
Well, I think I can honestly say, in reference to your earlier comment, we're all crazy people on this bus. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, clearly, it's nice when you have an entire bus full of crazy people, you know you're on the right bus. I mean, talk about signs, right?
I'm responsible for holding up the LOA today sign, apparently. Whatever you have, you must take it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that's
Kenn,
fair.
let's talk a little bit more about the career that you developed, because you've done some really cool stuff. Talk a bit about the getaway that you were mentioning that I forgot to mention in my introduction.
Yeah,
that sounds pretty
good.
cool.
It's all good. It's actually relatively new. What I did was, well, it's always been a goal of mine, and of course, attention, energy, focus is going to get you where you want to be. So that's what I gave it, and that's what I got. So I have this. It's just like a small retreat. It's in a place called Chalem, Mexico, and it's if people are familiar with Mexico, it's near Merida. It's like about 3.5 hours sort of north and west of Cancun, that kind of, right? It's on the Gulf of Mexico rather than either of the other coasts, right? Mm-hmm. So it's this great little fishing village. There's 3,500 people. It's one of the most peaceful places on the planet. And just the vibe of this place with, you know, the Mayan culture, right? With, you know, you go to these ruins and you can feel these, I don't even know what to call them. I don't want to call them spirits, but there's just this energy that's at some of these places, and these cenotes that you swim in were sacrificial cenotes, and, you know, they used to, yeah, and you go and you know, they've cleaned them all out and stuff, but I mean, you can go swimming in these, yeah. Uh-oh, what was that?
Something just bit me.
So it's this really cool place, and I mean, the area itself is really cool, and then put together there's only 2 rooms for it, so it's very intimate, it's very cool, blocked from the beach, got the pool and everything, and we just go through the program, right? I mean, we just go through sort of or sort of 4 steps, 3 to 4 steps that I incorporate in all of my coaching and seminars and whatnot. And so, but we just get to hone in more when we're in that atmosphere. The focus is amazing, and you just get to hone in on exactly what the desire is for now, right? Because, you know, in my world, it's like priority is singular. Right? Like, look it up. It's singular. You can really only have one priority. It can change from minute to minute, but you really only have one priority at any given time. You have one priority. You have other priorities, but realistically, you can only be focusing on one thing at a time, just like you can only have a negative or a positive, right, vibe. So that's where we get to. We get to what's the priority? Let's solve this for you, and let's figure out how we can get you to move on to the next thing, the next priority, because there's lots of them, but there's always only one, right? So, yeah.
Well, there may only be one, but when you're in a place like that, it's all. I mean, it's continuous. It's one continuous priority is what you're describing there. It's a priority. Well, I'm trying to find a way to lead into my main question. That energy you're talking about, that energy that you're feeling. To me, that's the priority of that moment when you're there. I have to admit, that's something I'm looking forward to. It has not been part of my prior experience. It's part of my future experience, and I can't wait for it to come. But talk about what it's like. What does it feel like? What do you experience when you're feeling that energy of a Mayan type place or any kind of place that has that old energy to it?
Well, that's it. It's like old energy. Like there's lessons everywhere. Well, just like, you know, anywhere. But when you go to these places, they're I guess, for lack of a better term, they're spiritual, and you can just feel this energy. And it's like Think and Grow Rich. In the book Think and Grow Rich, they talk about having your what does he call it? It's like your group,
your mastermind.
There you go, your mastermind group, right? Mm-hmm. And it can be real or imagined. It can be living or dead. I mean, you create that, right? Mm-hmm. But those energies are there, and you could you could sit there and like lean up against the pyramid and just ask questions and just sit and wait for the answers.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, and they're there. Like the answers are there. They came, they kicked ass, and they left. Right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Right? I mean, these people conquered, and then they thrived, and so the answers are there for anything that, right? And you can do that anywhere, but there's a certain energy there that you just know that there is something going on here where they haven't really even explained it. In this area, like, this is another reason I like this area, is because, like, okay, now we're going way back in history here, like 65 million years ago. Okay. There was an asteroid that hit the Earth, and it hit the Earth in the Gulf of Mexico, about 25 kilometers off the coast of where I am. And it wiped out virtually everything, like the dinosaurs and everything. You can look. It's called the Chetma. No, they found the crater.
There is a name for that, and I can't think of what it is.
They found the crater in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's like 25K deep or something, and they're drilling to it, and it wiped out, like, it's a new beginning there. Like, that energy, like, you just know that this is the place 65 million years ago where there's a new beginning, and I can get one too.
Right.
It's just, yeah.
That's quite a perspective, too. I mean, I'm kind of contrasting it to an old Far Side cartoon that I remember seeing that had a single panel of a whole bunch of dinosaurs, and they're all smoking cigarettes. And the caption says that's the real reason that they all became extinct. But but you're dealing with you're taking an event that is generally perceived to be, oh, this is terrible. This is the end of the dinosaur era. You know, all the dinosaurs got killed. But you're looking at it from an entirely different perspective. Yeah, but look at all the new beginnings that came out of it. And it's the same event.
Humans can now get out of the trees.
That's right. It's safe to come down, guys. Hey, party!
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? That's true, right? Like, you think about that. Like, you think that if this didn't happen at that particular time, we probably wouldn't be here.
Right.
I mean, there'd still be dinosaurs, and we'd be lunch. Like, I mean, really? You know? Like, it's like everything happens for a reason. And even 65 million years ago, stuff happened in order to further what needed to be pushed. It's just, it's mind-blowing sometimes. Yeah.
It's mind-blowing all the time.
Yeah, right? I just don't want to be the crazy person on the back of the bus.
You're not the crazy person. No, I remember a time myself, it's funny that you keep saying that. Back in 2011 is when I really started having what I would call an awakening. I'd been on the spiritual path, hunting and trying to find my own way. But in 2011 is when some really incredible things started happening. But they were things like what you're saying. I didn't feel comfortable talking to my family members about it. Only select friends because of that. I guess, you know, that
the stigma.
You sound crazy, or, you know, you're talking almost like this new age, you know, frou or whatever they call it. But really, when I started applying this stuff, it's really actually, to me, more based in science than anything. And it takes daily application. And when you apply it every day and you see the way that it works in literally every aspect of your life, there is nothing that it doesn't work with. Now you have your own proof, you know, your own empirical proof. You've proven it to yourself over and over and over again. That these aren't just some philosophies or, you know, I read this in a book and it sounds real great. That's another thing I always say is you can read all the books you want and watch all the videos, but if you don't actually practice it as regularly as possible, it doesn't do anything for you. It's just stagnant knowledge. So in order to get it activated and to really see it working in your life, and I still have my days where I'm like, forget it. I'm in a bad mood and I'm just going to let myself have it. And, you know, so I'm not outside of that range, but I allow myself to have the contrast, but I also know how to kind of reel it back in before, you know, things start really downward spiraling. Because then once that happens, it gets harder and harder to now pull yourself out of it. So I've learned kind of that balance of allowing myself to still feel the full spectrum of human emotion, while also not wallowing in the lower ones because, well, that's not fun trying to get out of that. It's like quicksand.
Yeah.
Although sometimes people do like to wallow. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of wallowing that goes on.
I'll give myself usually over one thing about 24 hours if it's something that's really upset me. And then I know if I go beyond that, now I'm just digging a ditch. So I let myself feel it, because I don't believe in completely only subscribing to having positive emotion, because that is really not, if I was meant to only have those, then that's all I would have. So I feel like it's important. It's something me and Louie actually talk a lot about on here, is learning to embrace the contrast. Because like what you're saying, Ken, it's all good. When you look at whether it's a quote-unquote bad experience or what you would call a good one, it's all meant to teach you something, which in the end allows you to better clarify what it is that you even want. What are you reaching for? Because without that contrast, you really can't do that.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. And it's one of the things I mention in my seminars is, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. It's like super old now, I think. It was George Burns, and it was called Oh God, and Oh God Book 2.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, right? So, and John Denver, and right? And one of the scenes in there, the little girl, his daughter, asks George Burns why bad things happen. Right? Which is a great, I get that all the time.
It's a wonderful question, yeah.
I get that, right? Like, people say, well, if it's all good, then why do bad things happen? And it's like, and I have an answer. It's not always popular, but I have an answer. But his answer was, look, and as you mentioned, it's the balance, right? And LOA isn't the only law in the universe. I mean, let's be clear. There's the law of balance. There's the law of polarity. There's the law of one. Right? It's not the only one. It seems to be one of the most powerful, but it's not the only one. So he's like, well, if I didn't have bad, I couldn't have good.
Exactly.
Because you wouldn't know it was good if nothing was ever bad. And he goes on to say, you can't have a top without a bottom. You can't have a left without a right. You can't have a front without a back. And it's like, look at a playing card. Look at a playing card. There's a back and there's a front. If there was no back, like, it's as simple as that, right? I mean, you have to have those things just for the balance of it all. So it's kind of cool. But when you know that the bad leads to the good, it's like, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Law of attraction to me is just the foundational. They should be teaching it in schools from kindergarten, elementary, middle school, high school. It should be like a required. To me, it's the fundamental like you said, there's lots of laws, but this is the one that's most important to actually having the control over creating the life that you want. So many humans are frustrated and walking around disconnected and angry and disappointed, dying of diseases and all sorts of things that manifest because they feel victimized by life. They feel like life is happening to them and they have absolutely no control over it. And that is a very hopeless position to be in as a person. And that's when I first found the law of attraction, like you were saying, just the thought that I had the power to change my external reality. It eliminated so much of my fear, anger, and honestly, disappointment in life. Because as I aged, it was like, is this it? Is my life just this kind of reactionary process of things happening outside of me? And it's all over the place. There's really no rhyme or reason. Good things happen, bad things happen. But not having that sense of control over it. Whereas with the law of attraction, it really is the art form. To me, it's just a skill in masterfully creating the external life that you want through really harnessing your internal one and learning how to manage that better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the biggest challenges I have when I'm coaching or doing the seminars is getting people to take responsibility. And that's really what it is for the bad thing. I have people in my world, in my circle, that when good things happen, they'll look at me and they'll go, LOA.
Right.
Right?
I did that.
Yeah, right? But then when bad things happen,
they
go, that's your fault. Right? It's like, no, it's not my fault. I didn't do anything, right? So, and there are people, right? And so that's a challenge. People have to understand that they are totally responsible for the good and the bad that they're attracting into their world.
You're responsible for all of it.
All of it.
Yes, that's the rub. You can't just say, hey, I created this great thing, that was me. And then when the bad things happen, saying, hey, that had nothing to do with me, I don't know why that happened.
Yeah, sure you can't. People do it all the time. What do you mean they can't do that?
It's a big one.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest breakthrough is what you're saying right there, Ken, is when you fully embrace if you're the creator, you are literally the creator of all of it. And that is I think that's what defines the person that's kind of first getting into LOA and they are really enjoying the good stuff. But when you can take ownership and look at where the things that I'm thinking and feeling that are manifesting undesirable results, and then you can start really kind of massaging it and working with it that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I'm gonna share another story with you because this is really sort of what this is about. So I was I had this vehicle and I was kind of tired of it and I wanted to get a new vehicle. But you know, you're thinking payments, you're thinking this, you're thinking that. Do I really want to get involved in all this, right? I want a new vehicle, but how badly? How big of what's my priority here? Is it really that, or is it, you know, is the money more important to me than the vehicle? And so this dragged on for probably about 3 or 4 months, and I just kept thinking, yeah, I want a new vehicle. I want a new vehicle. Yeah, I want a new vehicle. Now, this is an important lesson. I'm just going to sidebar here. We don't have to figure out how it's going to happen. We just have to know what we want to happen.
Exactly.
Right? So here's the thing. Like this shocking, right? Here's how it happened, and I had no idea how it was going to happen. So I'm in the left-hand turn lane in my city here. I'm in the left-hand turn lane. The lady in this lane, which is a straight-through lane, decides she wants in the left turn lane, hits me, writes off my vehicle.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So, let's think back. Okay? Did I attract this? Abso-freaking-lutely I attracted this. Okay? Right? I mean, now that seems like a horrible situation, right? You know, nobody was injured. It was all good, right? Like that way. Nobody was injured. I wasn't injured. She was good. Her vehicle, it was Daddy's vehicle, so I don't know what she had to deal with that. That's her thing, right? But, and good luck to you, right? So now, my vehicle's written off, so now I have to get a new vehicle. So, yeah. So, and it's important to know, you don't have to figure out the how. Just figure out what it is you want.
Right.
But be clear, right? Be clear. I know that in The Secret, one of the scenes in The Secret that's always bothered me a little bit is they talk about how they want a check for $10,000 from an unknown source in the mailbox, right? Mm-hmm. And then he says he gets it. And it's like, that's a great thing to want, $10,000 if money is your goal, but but then I'm thinking while I'm watching the scene, I'm looking and I'm going, well, what if it's an inheritance because your father passed away?
Right.
Like, you better be freaking clear on what you want, right? So instead of an unknown source or an unnamed source, how about I want $10,000 because I earned it through this? Now we're working on something that has teeth, right? And we can move forward with that. Rather than this willy-nilly sort of whimsical thought of $10,000 showing up but my father passed away. Oh, well, that's not what I wanted. Well, that's not what you said, right? I was coaching this, just to share this, I was coaching this one friend of mine, and she was looking for a more ideal relationship. So we're going through the whole process, and part of the process for me is what do you want, what don't you want, and we do a sort of a pros and cons list of, you know, trying to get more focused and more clarity on your desire. And so, I don't know, we had like 50, 60 things under what she doesn't want, and then we found the opposite of those things, which is a great exercise. If you can do it, do it. So we found the opposites of the things she didn't want. So she finds this guy, long hair, can fix cars. This is what she wants, right? Long hair, can fix cars, play the guitar, right? Has a job, doesn't smoke, right? She's got all these things. So she meets this guy, but he has no teeth, right? So it's like, well, you didn't put that on the list. Well, okay, now I got to adjust my list, right? So it's like, you got to be clear, right?
This is true. Yeah, we got a question from our live stream audience. A Facebook user is asking a question. Really, very basic question. How can someone get started with the law of attraction?
I recommend listening to Abraham Hicks above all else because her videos, the amount that Esther and Abraham have put up for free on YouTube, and I just think that Abraham, the channel of Abraham explains really the basics of the law of attraction and how to, in so many different ways too. So if you don't understand one version with the way it's being taught, there's constant an evolution in the way that she's kind of presenting the material. And so I highly suggest looking up Esther Abraham Hicks, Hicks, and you'll find thousands of free videos. And that, for me, I would listen to them literally all day, and it would help reprogram my brain. It got to the point where, I used to listen to them all day, and then it was maybe one or two a day, and then it was maybe one a day, one a week. Now I barely ever have to listen to them because it's just, now it's how I think. So to me, that's where I would start. What would you say, LOA?
It's a great question, really, and I just wanted to say hi to Jeffrey, Debbie, and Asha as well on the feed there. But if you wanted to start with LOA, the very important thing that I think is to understand it correctly. And if you watch the Abraham Hicks YouTube videos, start with the Abraham Hicks' main site on YouTube and start with their first videos. Because, there is really a breakdown of understanding. And if you do that breakdown, you really will get. And if you ever want to test yourself, come ask me. I will be able to test. It's very important, because if you get the step-by-step understanding, first of all, it's a universal force. Whatever you put out, whatever you think about, you will attract to you. That is the absolute basis of it. And if you're focusing on good things are going to come to you. If you're focusing on bad things are going to come to you. So it's what you're putting out, you're going to draw back to you. It's like a magnet. It's whatever you're putting out, you're going to get back. That's the first basic thing that is important to understand. So universal force, it's always been there from the beginning of time till the end of time. Every other law which people kind of create, all the different laws, they're all, to me, subdivisions of the law of attraction.
Ken, you want to take a swing at it?
Yeah, sure. It's I don't think you start with law of attraction. I think you're already in the law of attraction. I think you can't avoid the law of attraction. So it's like just by asking the question, you've started, because that's your goal. Okay, so now you've defined a goal, right? Now your goal is to learn more about the law of attraction. So okay, great. Now and see how this works. Like it's just like a game. Okay, so you've got two fantastic answers there. Why? Because you ask the question, which is all we do. That's all we do. We ask for stuff or things or experiences or events or whatever feelings, whatever it is that we want. We can ask for that, and it's not all material things. Like, clearly, it's not all material things. Like I say, it can be experiences, but you just ask, right? Believe. I mean, isn't this the name of one of Hicks' books? I mean, I'm not even going to go there because it's the name of the book. So it's like, yeah. So that's it. I mean, you're already, and this is an important lesson. Like I was sharing with you about my vehicle being written off. Well, if I didn't know anything about the law of attraction and that happened to me, and then I learned stuff about the law of attraction, I would understand that was the law of attraction in action, right? And so if you understand, like was said here, you think about what you want, give it positive energy, and then you're like a magnet and you bring it to you. If you just take like 5 minutes, sit back and go, okay, what things have happened to me? Now, like, here's the thing, okay? Nothing you've ever wanted has ever shown up in your life without you giving it attention, energy, and focus. Like, if you think about something that you wanted, did you just like, okay, I want a new kettle, and then you never did anything, and that was it. And it was like, no, you gave it attention, energy, and focus. It was positive, and you attracted that to you. Like, anything. And it's already happened to you. So when you reflect back on what's already happened to you in your life, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your vehicle, whether it's your house, whether it's your dog, cat, hamster, ferret, it doesn't matter what it is. Whatever you've said you've wanted and you've given attention, energy, and focus to it in a positive way, you've attracted. So look back at your previous successes and you'll realize that that's how it worked. You're already doing it. You're already a master of it. All you got to do is figure out more the fundamentals of it, and use it deliberately, because a lot of times we use this like non-deliberately, right? Like, and then that's where car accidents happen, right? I mean, you might be right, because we're thinking, oh, I don't want to get in a crash today. I don't want to get in a crash today. I don't want to get in a crash today. And then what happens? You get in a crash today. Why? Because you're thinking about getting in a crash today.
For me, I always joke, I go from really spiritual Amy to I call myself the mad Italian when I get in the car. I'm in Atlanta where there's a lot of traffic. There's no excuse, by the way, for this. But my personality changes when I get in the car. It's almost, I get so angry at people. Like I become very judgy. And I always remind myself, especially when I catch myself and I'm doing it. I mean, if somebody does something that is truly dangerous, I'm going to have a reaction to that. But for the most part, I'm yelling at people that do not deserve to be yelled at, and I know it. And I always tell myself I'm lining up to have an accident or something to go really wrong here if I don't get my mad Italian under control when I'm in the car. So that's a confession for me.
I'm going to share a little story here of my own, and this dates back to when I was dating, when my wife and I were still in the premarital era of our relationship. We had met, I guess it was, 3.5 months before this event. And we were at the beach in Rhode Island. Her family is originally from Rhode Island. We were going to leave the beach and go visit her family. And it was a beautiful day. It was middle of the summer. It was August, actually. And, just gorgeous weather. It was the middle of the week, so nobody was at the beach. I mean, the beach was all ours. We were driving back. Route 2 was all ours. And before we got in the car, my wife says, and my fiance says, I know the route better than you do. Do you mind if I drive there? And this is a car that I just bought. It wasn't a brand new car. It was a relatively new used car, but I just bought it. And I said, yeah, sure. Just don't get into an accident. You guys can tell what's going to come next. We got in the car. We're driving down the highway. There is nobody on the highway except for this one car coming in the other direction. He turns in front of us and stops in the middle of our lane because she's trying to find out if she's in the right place for the wedding she is going to attend. We slam into her.
Oh, no.
The car is totaled. Her car is totaled. We all end up in the hospital. Nobody's hurt, seriously hurt. We had minor injuries. And talk about how you never know how things are going to work out.
Right.
Obviously, she was at fault. That accident paid for our wedding.
What? See? Right,
it paid for the wedding. It paid for the engagement ring. It paid for people to come to the wedding who couldn't have come otherwise. But it really fits in exactly with what you're talking about.
Yes.
Be really careful what it is that you ask for, because
disclaimer, we're not telling you to get into a car accident, folks, to pay for your wedding, okay?
And this is long before I knew about how the law of attraction, or even what the law of attraction was. I didn't even know what the phrase was at that point. Yeah. But, it's just crazy.
It's amazing when you like that. Like, you reflect back on things that happened to you in your pre-LOA life, and it's like, yeah, that happened because of that. That happened because of that. That happened because of that. It all makes sense, and it all starts to unfold and orchestrate for you in the go forward as well. It's so
and it does
awesome.
Make accepting when things are seemingly not going the way that you want, to be able to understand and know that something is in the works that you've actually asked for. And the minute you can kind of let go of that resistance or whatever negative emotion, the lower emotion vibration that you're holding, the quicker it can be revealed why that thing is happening for your betterment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just takes a while before you finally recognize it.
Yeah. Being hyper aware, right? Being aware of everything that's going on around you, so that you can take advantage of those signs that are coming to you. Yeah.
So we got like 5 minutes left before we have to do the sign off here.
Okay.
And this has been wonderful. Obviously, before we go anywhere, I want to just say this has been wonderful having you here. Let's start off with, first of all, tell people a little bit more how to reach you, how to find out more about Kenn Dixon, where he's available. Maybe they're looking for a coach, maybe they want a speaker, whatever. How do they reach you?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm on 16 different social media sites.
Only 16? What's wrong with you?
I know, I'm a slacker. What can I tell you? Right?
Can we put his information in the chat wall so that it's available for viewers to see?
Yeah, I'm still learning how this interface works, but I know that there's a banner feature. I'll see if I can figure out how to put it in.
We can put it in the post, like
there we go.
There we go.
Ken has two ends, but the first one is silent, just so you know. Okay, so... so KennDixon.com. I'm on Facebook. The retreat is on Facebook. It's Casa del Capullo, which is the House of the Cocoon, because, well, basically it's a metamorphosis that happens when you come down there. So that's pretty awesome. And yeah, I mean, just my stuff is all on KennDixon.com. You can check it out there. I update, with some new motivational stuff every day. So that kind of hopefully keeps people engaged and motivated. And yeah, if you need coaching, if you need a speaker, yeah, I'm there, and I'll go anywhere. Like whatever, man. Like let's get this world hooked up and get that positive energy flowing.
And if there was any way to take this 8-hour course that we condensed into 1 hour on how the law of attraction works and focus it down to about 2 minutes on what's the one takeaway that you should have.
Wow.
What's the one takeaway?
You know what? One of the most important things. Okay, so we know you ask, you believe, you receive, right? But here's the thing. So I mentioned earlier in this that I do sort of that clarity checklist where you figure out what you don't want, find the opposite of it, and then that gives you a little more clarity as to what it is you do want. In the relationship thing, it was like I don't want somebody who smokes, I don't want somebody who does drugs, whatever. I mean, it's your list, not mine, right? And then you say, okay, you don't say I want a non-smoker because this is where the clarity comes in, because a non-smoker still focuses on the smoker. Right. So you want somebody who's healthy and respects their life. Now, if you guys smoke, that's cool, whatever. But, that's the opposite. Somebody who, right? But then
just means that you're not wanted. No, I'm not. I'm kidding.
Right. But then here's the thing. And I learned this from another coach in California. Her name was Coach Leah. And we would do that list. And then at the very bottom, because we don't know what's possible, like we really don't know what we can achieve and what we can receive. So when you get your list of everything that, is the opposite of the stuff you don't want, you've got like 100 things on there. At the bottom of that list, this is so important, and it's such an awe moment for me. It's like on the bottom of that, put this plus more. This plus more, because otherwise it's a limited thought. Right? And we didn't even get into limited thoughts today, but that's a limiting thought. If you got your 50 items of, what is exactly ideal for you, and maybe there's something even more ideal for you that you don't even know exists. Right? And that's so possible. But we don't know it's possible. So always think about this plus more, and never, never, ever try to figure out how it's going to happen. Just know what you want and let the universe take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I always liked Mike Dooley's take on that. He calls them the horrible hows, because the more that you focus on those horrible hows, the more horrible they become. So you don't want to go there.
It's not your job to figure it out. To me, that's the higher self, the intelligent field, whichever way you want to phrase it. You just have to have the thought, the desire, and then it needs to it will arrange itself down the best, quickest path.
It's so cool the way it happens.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, it's just it's a miracle every day, right?
It is a miracle every day. Something else that's a miracle every day? When we get somebody like Kenn Dixon coming onto the show to talk about all this wonderful stuff that he talks about. So Kenn, I just gotta say thank you very much for the time that you gave and the information you gave and the energy you gave. You may be a crazy person on the bus, but let me tell you, you came to the right bus.
Yeah, you're on the right bus, okay?
This is the right bus. You're on the right bus. So congratulations for finding the right bus. You did it.
Thank you so much. Well, it's just so when you get it, it's so cool. Like it's life altering. It really is life changing when you
literally.
Yeah. Right? Like everything from the neck up and from the neck down. It's like it changes everything.
I think it's the perfect summary right there. So thank you, Kenn Dixon, for joining us and giving us all this wonderful insight. As usual, thank you to Amy and Louie with all their wonderful insight. Louie was actually quiet today. This is like, we have to take his temperature to find out if he's okay.
We took a little break today.
That's what it was, yeah. There was something like that going on.
I love the conversation. That was awesome.
So good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you especially to our podcast listeners. Without you, we wouldn't have a podcast. And we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.